members sort of 5-10 minutes in.
We've got so many that I don't even think that they're important anymore.
Oh, okay, cool.
A lot of students don't want theirs recorded, and it's not. But anyway, thank you for your contribution, because it's actually good to um, have a whole history of your progress, as
Mm-hmm.
well as that's also a fairly uh, complete way of hearing or it's a way of hearing the complete Dhamma, is because
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at it from a lot of different angles. Um, and so today, uh, the situation is here you are all juiced up in jhana, and then it's time to go to work, and you don't want to do it.
Yeah,
And so instead of keeping the jhana, you decide to be unhappy because you got to go to work.
and then
Now,
boom, it's gone.
is that an old habit or what? And that it seems to me, and everyone that I say this to kind of agrees with me in their own past, so there's no real scientific evidence that I know of. We get into the habit of doing what we're told to do and don't like it. So now that parent in your head, as Byrne calls it, the parent ego state, tells us or the child what to do, we go back into that same old habit and say, I'll do it, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
That is, in fact, if you think about this pleasant state of first jhana, should and oughta and could be the normal state of humans, that
Yep.
that's their normal
Yeah.
state rather than occasional state.
Should be.
Uh,
Yep.
if it were the normal state, then when someone does do this to themselves, they would they would recognize, oh, I have just been reborn in the animal world.
Yep. That's exactly what I thought. I was thinking, right, and now I'm in the woeful states.
But then you can remind yourself, but I can get out of that too. I can come someday to the point of it's actually a Walt Disney song, and it comes out of what, early 1950s, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, where hi ho, it's off to work we go,
I remember
you
that.
know,
Yeah.
and whistle while we work, and we whistle while we work, you know, and so we as humans could live our lives like those seven dwarfs when we don't.
Yeah, exactly. It's just habitual.
And then when we see it in Walt Disney, we think it's a cartoon and that that's magical thinking,
Uh-huh.
that no one actually enjoys doing their work.
Yep.
So this is what we need to do with the mind, is to pick up on that, to recognize that in fact we do go into these woeful states, either because we want something or because we have to do something that we don't want to do,
Mm.
or that something comes that we don't like. But you can see, in fact, what really happens is it doesn't matter whether it's coming or going. It winds up in the same feelings.
Say that again.
It doesn't matter the coming or going. What I mean by that, it doesn't mean whether we like it and we want it, or whether we don't like it and are trying to get away from it. Or
Right.
that third kind of feeling is that I don't know whether I like it or not. In all three cases, we wind up feeling bad.
Yep. Yep.
In all
Definitely.
three cases, I used to think, man, at least we got one out of three. At least I can go around liking things all the time. No, that's the one that's in fact the most common and the most dangerous.
Yeah. You get attached.
Well, the whole society ultra supports that.
Yeah.
I recommend often there's a 4-part series on YouTube. Each one of them lasting an hour. It's a 4-hour documentary, and the name of it is The Century of the Self.
Okay.
Century of the Self.
Century
And
of the self.
what this is, it is um, a long, detailed, pointed documentary from the perspective or the point of view of the birth of industrial psychology,
Right.
which actually means the birth of scientifically learning to manipulate people en masse, or the
Mm-hmm.
birth of propaganda.
Yep. Sure.
Okay, and that the guy that is the heart of this is Edward Bernays, who was he was the actual nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Oh,
And it
wow.
was from his uncle he got all of this information about the human psyche and everything that Freud was doing through his research. But he used it to turn people against their own best self-interest
Mm-hmm.
in many, many things. So our society over the past 100 years, while it is waking up intellectually to understand some things, on other things, it's very, very much manipulated by the culture that we see
Mm.
presented in media. And so that's what this documentary is all about. It will blow your mind. It will really see. It really shows everybody who watches this. This is Silabataparamasa in on
Oh.
steroids or full blown. This is it. And it seems like that our society is the one that is most likely to come out of it because we can see the suffering of it because it's really got us.
Mm-hmm.
We are slaves. I mean, this is exactly what Black Lives Matter. The reason why so many people are getting on that bandwagon is because they say, yeah,
Yep.
whatever whatever black life means. Right now, to me, it means my life actually does matter,
Mm.
and that's taking it from the perspective of, wait a minute, I matter to me enough to get myself out of that crap
Yep.
that the society has created for us to make us slaves, to make us need the big business. I call it the GREB. Have I
It's
talked to
like
you about
modern
the GREB?
slavery. The GREB.
Well, the GREB,
What's that?
government, religion, education, and business.
Yeah.
These
Pretty much.
four are the ones who are most as industrial systems. And in fact, the question is, where do we put medicine? Medicine, you put that in business because hospitals are
Yeah.
no longer in the care business; they're in the business of
Yep.
care. All right, so it's all been turned business, but all four of these is talked about in uh, the century of the self that
Mm-hmm.
shows how really stuck we are into that society, and that's exactly you felt what they want you to feel subconsciously, and in fact, you felt that way subconsciously every day since you were a child.
Yeah.
But now coming out of the jhana state, in fact, this was the thing that actually grabbed you and pulled you right out of the jhana state, and now you can see it. Congratulations. Wakey, wakey. That's what this whole process is about, is to be able to see these hindrances.
Mm.
So that next time that happens to you, and it won't be the last, you can grab it now every time and start to sing that song, hi ho, is off to work. We got to do it.
Yep. I couldn't help but think it would be so good if I just didn't work, if I just quit and just went and just stayed at home and just meditated. That was the thought process in my mind, and yeah.
That is the normal thing that happens, though. Over time, we become less and less attached to that outside world, and the more we become attached to those things that are worthwhile attaching to.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, I can
said
see
something that's
that.
going to really tick off a bunch of Buddhists using that word attachment. But literally, what we're talking about here is not the four modes of clinging that lead us to the four woeful states, but rather we're talking about attachment to things that are really worthwhile attaching to,
Mm.
like this present moment, and attaching to the Dhamma, and that the material things that we attach to that bring us to the sum total conclusion at least once every 2 weeks when we get the paycheck. Darn it,
Mm.
was my last 2 weeks worth this paycheck?
Mm-hmm.
And we start asking ourselves that question in the sense of a cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
But that's also what happens when um, we understand the Sangha and the existence of the Buddha Sangha is actually this issue. And that
Yeah.
is, are you free enough to just walk off and go sit in the woods?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Definitely.
that lifestyle is becoming increasingly, let us say, worthwhile, to where not long ago that society. I mean, it comes in fits and starts. I'm
Mm-hmm.
out of the hippie movement. This is part of my blood and skin. Is the counterculture movement. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's kind of time that we had another one. The last one was because of a war. The Vietnamese War caused a complete countercultural thing, but it fizzled out, and all the counterculturalists said, "Yes, sir, I'm back to work, sir," and climb that ladder again. So maybe this generation, because in fact, the ladder itself is increasingly shaky.
Yeah.
And coronavirus has actually been able to show how fragile it is.
Yep.
Imagine what life would be like if, in fact, everybody did, regardless of the reason, but they made the decision that I don't need to work. I can just quit my job.
Yep.
Let's see what life is like. Imagine what it would be like if just everybody quit.
Yeah. Everyone would be a lot more happy, a lot less stressed out.
Well, a lot of people, though, do stress themselves out because they don't plan in advance about how are they going to, um, let us say, develop the skill of eating. Because
Mm.
right now they're eating. They that's the big fear that people have is that if I don't work, I don't eat. You know something? The society, especially in places like England and the United States, they set it up that way on purpose.
Mm. Pretty much.
And now they have all of this excess labor that they don't want to pay anything for, and it's excess because they don't need it. They don't need it right now because of the coronavirus. But everybody is trying to scramble. Especially the people who own businesses. I got to get back in business. I got to work. I got to work. I got to work. And you can see they're just frantic about it.
Mm.
It's the frantic group who need to sit down and take a rest. And they're either frantic because they don't know where they're going to eat, or they're frantic because they can't get their business back together. But
Mm.
I think a lot of people are beginning to get over their frantic. In fact, that's part of the reason why they wanted to open things back up, was because people didn't want to deal with that frantic that they
Mm.
had inside, the fear that was there. It's so well known, it's got names like cabin fever,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
when you get cooped up and you have to deal with your own mind and you find it's quite a jungle in there.
I know so many people. Well, not so many people. Every single person around me all is all like stressed out, being cooped up. Um, I'm the only person I know who's just fine.
Well, that's because you're practicing being just fine, and they're practice. And while you're practicing being just fine, they're actually practicing being frantic.
Yeah, I suppose so. They're kind of reinforcing that behavior.
And all you need to do is to wake up, and they can start practicing being a-okay again.
Mm.
But they don't know they have that choice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, there's so many I have to's or I must do this
Life is complicated.
with life, yeah. And it seems like there's no other option. You have to do it. Um, but it's more like you choose to do the things you do. Um, yeah,
But we do it out of the feeling of necessity.
yeah, that's true as well.
But that necessity, though, is nothing but, if you strip away all of the fancy language around it, it's fear.
Yeah, fear.
That's what that's what the whole word necessary or need comes from. It's not that I want it, because I'll be fine without it if I don't want it. But need it means it's an issue of survival somehow.
Yeah, it's like we're all so driven by this fear, and it just gets more and more subtle. Um, but it's the main driving force.
Exactly. And so that driving force of the fear, which came with the thought of, um, maybe just the one word come in a full blown thought of work.
Mm.
And then the anxiety for work comes up, and with that anxiety, then comes the parents' messages, you've got to go work. And that's the second thought that comes in.
Yep.
And then somewhere under his breath, the kid says, I don't want to go to work right now. I like what I'm doing right now. But when he says that, he's already lost what he was doing right now.
Yeah.
Now he's got to listen to
Exactly.
mommy. He's not drawing on the wall anymore.
Yep.
Now he's getting, okay. And so that little sequence that happens inside the mind can be very subtle, but we can catch it. Because all of that I just talked about, it took me what, couple of 3 minutes to say it. It took less than a second or two for all of that stuff to happen,
Yep.
one after another like that, and these internal dialogues. And so psychology has studied enough of that and become expert enough on it, not just to help clients, because in fact the problem with the client is not that he doesn't understand what this is going on, it's that he's not practicing it the way that you're practicing. That's what the whole quality is, that these are skills that have to be developed to overcome all of these deeply ingrained habits.
Yeah, you
But
have to keep
psychology still
practicing.
knows about it. That's why they're capable of manipulating the masses so effectively. It is unbelievable, and yet I know exactly. It's not unbelievable, but not just I believe it. I can see it in
Mm,
great detail of why so many people still cling to Donald Trump.
yeah,
It's like I don't like human psychology being that way
yeah,
because it really is manipulatable.
yeah. It really is, and it's yeah, it's amazing how powerful it is, and just it's scary how powerful it is.
And it is, in fact, the cosmic joke that's how it is. I guess that's the big punchline, and you're it. It's like
Yeah,
that's how things are. That humans are still not really fully human because they're completely manipulatable, just like your average sheep or cow or
exactly.
horse or dog. That any
It's
animal that can be trained, to the humans are the ones that are trained, and
a
they're trained to
lot.
do what they're told to do, no matter how they feel about it.
Yep.
And what a lot of people don't understand, they think, oh, we need to change the form of government, or we need to pass this or that kind of law, or we need to go make them clean up the air, or things like that. And there's a lot of ordinary, good minded people that can do that. The world is filled with people who want to make the world better so that they can feel better.
Mm,
The real task is, can you actually, each individual one of us, in a kind of a conversation like this, we have to come to that conclusion. Yes, I can, in fact, change my mind, and then I don't have to change the outside world.
yep.
That I can do everything that needs to be done right here on site.
That's exactly it. That's the goal.
And then the ordinary mind will say, well, what about everybody else? The answer is, well, those who really understand the nature of the mind don't have to go act like all of those people who don't know how the mind works in order to do good. It is better to stay at the level of understanding actually what's going on without getting in it,
Mm,
which I would say the phrase would be being in the world but not of the world,
mm,
that we can see what's going on, but we do kind of have an obligation. And that obligation is occasionally pulling somebody aside and teaching them the Dhamma. And if we keep doing that, we'll keep drawing more and more out of that crowd. And I think that there's kind of a movement getting started now where a
yep.
lot of people are beginning to say, wait a minute, I do recognize, I do see it. Yeah, that I can be good off of meditation, and then all of a sudden I got to go to work, and look how I have changed my feeling. And maybe it would be better just to not have to worry about going to work.
Yeah.
This is part of the reason why the Buddha has what we call the four requisites. Have you heard of the four requisites in the sense of Buddhist?
I've heard of them, but I don't know what they are.
All right. These are actually a new lifestyle,
Right.
because the way that humans live normally is that we require anything we want.
Yeah.
But the real requirements are kind of a baseline. In fact, psychology knows all about this. in the sense of real poverty,
Mm-hmm.
downtrodden dirt poverty,
Mm-hmm.
is a form of suffering all on its own. So when someone gets above a certain kind of level, a certain base level, then they feel a whole lot better about their environment. But then the environment's done its job. The rest of it is up to the individual. So no matter how much better he makes the environment, he will not increase his mind.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a baseline level. An example of that would be shoes
Mm-hmm.
or clothing. But in fact, this is part of it. The four requisites is adequate, but just adequate housing. Then we have adequate clothing. This is getting funny. And then adequate food, and then adequate medical attention. Now, in
Mm-hmm.
fact, there's a whole lot of people all over the Western world that's a high class that don't have all of these four things, and yet they struggle and they struggle and they struggle just trying to get up to a baseline.
Mm-hmm.
But once we reach that baseline, then everything after that is kind of easy. All we have to do is maintain that kind of baseline. Now, one of the ways of requiring little in the way of medicine and healthcare is to stop listening to the cosmetic industry and all the pill industries and everything like that, and only take medications that you know are going to be of value and benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And so we begin to close down on it. That in fact, to understand that the medical industry in the West, by and large, is a racket,
Yeah.
and it's designed to be a profit center.
Yep.
And
Exactly.
so we use them when we need them, but we don't use them when we don't need them, and it's our choice. And we
Mm.
have to make sure of that so that we can keep it to that level of just adequate, just at the baseline. Sure, we take the medicines that we think that we need, and that's up to us to figure out what that is so that we can keep that medical expense way down. For instance, insurance. I don't understand, and I haven't really for my whole life had any understanding why anyone in the United States would want to buy medical insurance. It's almost like the biggest scam there is medical insurance.
But it's different in the UK, but in America it's expensive to get medical treatment if you're not insured, isn't it?
Not if you don't pay for it.
How do you not pay for it?
Well, you complain. You tell them, hey, that doctor wasn't very good today. I think I ought to sue you for malpractice. And all of a sudden, your bill is not really important after all. You got to be a lion sometimes. You tell them, hey, if you're over, I'm not going to be overcharged. I want you to charge me what you charge for Medicaid. You prove to me that you get what you know, you got to, this is business.
Mm.
Okay, but you see, the whole idea is that, oh, it's a big hospital. Oh, they're important. Oh, I'm nothing.
Mm-hmm.
But the lion is not going to behave that way. If I've got to deal with those folks, I'm going to deal at an equal basis with them. I
So do you
haven't
think it's
only had
actually
to do
possible
that
to do
one
that?
time. And pardon?
You think because I don't know if it's actually possible for Americans to do that and actually negotiate the kind of fair prices. I don't know.
If everyone who had a bill from a doctor or a hospital complained and complained and complained that they're charging too much money, and I don't believe you, and I think that this is a
Yeah.
bogus item, and let's get my lawyer and your lawyer to go to court over this so that we can find out what a good bill would be, their prices would come right down.
Fair enough.
So Somebody's got to do it. Like I was about to say, I've only done this one time
Mm-hmm.
in my whole life. But sometimes people take you to a doctor, whether you want to go or not. And so the family insisted. What happened was is that I had a skill saw, and I set it down before it had stopped running, and I set it down on my leg,
Oh.
and I
Oh.
still got about a 4 or 5 inch scar. It's quite beautiful there. But I was quite
Wow.
comfortable to not go. There was no reason for me to go to the hospital.
Really?
Yeah, there was no need for to go to the hospital. Yeah, I mean, what is the doctor going to do?
Stitch it up.
Most of stitching has to do with cosmetics.
Really?
Yeah, most stitching has to do with cosmetics. The leg's going to heal if you take care of it, if you treat it right, if you make sure it doesn't get infected,
Ah.
if you keep it clean, keep it closed, it will heal. Especially if you keep it still. I know I've done. I've been doing too much motorbike racing to know. So I've had elbows that I've lost, and chins that got missing, and this hand's broken, and this arm
Wow.
is broken, and this leg's got a huge 14-inch piece of steel still left in it.
Wow.
Okay, so that kind of stuff, on top of the monks' attitude, because in Thailand the monks don't go to the. There is two, especially one main monks' hospital in Thailand.
Right.
But by and large, monks don't go.
So
Even
what if they
Bhikkhu
get really
Buddhadasa
sick?
refused to have the helicopter of the King of Thailand. King of Thailand offered his helicopter to come pick up Bhikkhu Buddhadasa and take him to one of the better hospitals
Wow.
um, in Bangkok, and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa turned him down. Sorry, I don't need it.
Wow.
I'm good to die. I'm already 87. I've had enough of this place. I'm out of here.
I'd take the medical care.
uh, well, yeah. Back to the story. Anyway, I really argued with him over the bill,
Right.
and got it reduced. The first part was the easy part, and that was because there was two separate bills, one for the doctor and one for the hospital, and it was really easy to get that doctor's bill out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I said, that doctor that did that was a student. You had a student do that to me, and you're charging me $500, whatever it was, to for that stitch. That was just a couple of stitches. Is all that doctor did. Didn't take him 3 minutes, and he's a student. And they said, never mind, never mind.
Wow. They actually reduced it for you.
They know the doctor's part. They just forgot it. They said, never mind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they didn't want to deal with me. Especially with me howling with laughter while I was telling them that they were crooks. And so the hospital did too. They finally, um, uh, I think they quit too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the outcome of that, but I do remember that it was so remarkably easy to get that doctor to back right off.
That's very surprising. I would not have expected that.
This video may cause a revolution in medical care. At the grassroots level, each person, one at a time, can do what they need to do for themselves and teach others that we can do it that way. So, anyway, back to the requisites: adequate food, adequate clothing, yeah, right. But I'm in the tropics. And adequate housing. And here you see that I'm in outdoors. So, we can find a way to where our living expenses are dirt cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
and you can still live really well. Then, in
Yeah.
fact, the whole commune world that was beginning to bud in the early 1970s, I still think that's the root of why so many retreat centers are springing up. And retreat centers could always use an extra gardener or two who doesn't care much about gardening,
Uh-huh.
just a place to hang out. Wats and temples like that are the thing to do in Thailand.
Oh, yeah?
But there are, yeah, right. That's where people go to hang out. They can always get a free meal at the Wat.
Yeah, makes sense.
Hmm. Yeah, get dormitory space, easy enough, so people can come. In fact, at Wat So Most, the dormitory for the Thais, they have private rooms, but the Westerners have to be in this big area. That's one of the things. But anybody who wants to come, any backpacker who comes to Wat So Most, they've got a place to stay as long as they want to stay there. If they stay there long enough, they'll get private accommodations.
Mm, that's nice.
But that would be true at any Wat in Thailand, especially the bigger, the more likely that is, especially if you're there for practicing Dhamma.
Mm.
But now I know that there are more than 200 Wats in the U.S., Thai Wats, as well as another
Whoa,
100 or so
more than
Lao.
200.
200, right? They're springing up. And not only that, but some of the best, most high quality monks in Thailand are coming to the U.S. to head some of these big Wats. They're well funded from Thailand.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if there are any. I know there's one in the UK.
No, there's several that I can tell you about. One in Chithurst, the other one is Hemel Hempstead. There's another one in downtown London, someplace, a big Thai place.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. You can do some research. In fact, that would be a good thing for you to do. We need all of the names of all the Watts and all the retreat centers and any place that people can go in England. I would like to
Mm-hmm.
have a list of all of those places so that we can tell everybody, here you go.
Yeah.
If you want different housing and a different living environment where you don't have to work for a living, that's what Buddhism is really all about, is quit that world and let's go have fun together.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yet,
I can get a
and yet
list.
I, go ahead. Okay. Yes. So what I have seen is uh, corporations or businesses in general are now in the business of mindfulness. There's a place called Mindful Life
It's
or
a big
whatever.
business.
And right, and they're actually corporate. They're trying to sell mindfulness practice at the corporate level, right? You guys be careful. You guys be careful. Those slaves may start to wake up if you teach them how.
Yep. Exactly. It's more than just a productivity tool.
Right. They think that it's a productivity tool, but in fact, it's just the opposite.
Yeah.
That in fact, the Dhamma is the karma that leads to the end of karma.
Oh
Have you
yeah.
ever heard of that expression?
No, I
Or the
haven't.
karma that
Um.
leads to the end of karma.
Yeah.
Okay, the four kinds of karma are good action leads to good results, bad action leads to bad results, and that um, wrong view is that, oh, I can get away with it,
Mm-hmm.
that I can go do bad and I won't have to have the bad results. Okay, but right view is, oh no, you can't. We're going to make sure that you are going to have to suffer for the damage you've done. Okay,
Mm.
and so this is ordinary right view or the parent. and I can get away with it, the child of wrong view. And that the super mundane right view is to look at what really is going on. And by doing so right now, we're examining this ancient law of karma that every religion is built upon. The whole point of going to heaven is you've been a sinner, you've done bad, you continue to do bad, but I'll forgive you anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. As opposed to you're a sinner, you've been a sinner, you continue to sin, and get out.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the whole idea of, are you in or are you out, or do you survive or do you die, is the all feeling based,
Yep.
but that it still has this quality of doing right or doing wrong.
Yeah.
But the Buddha is talking about it completely differently, because one of the things that's mentioned is actually in several places, where the Buddha says, I understand karma and the comings and goings of things based upon cause and effect. In other words, all action and the result of that action is generally right then and there, or
Mm-hmm.
commingled. They work together. The result, for instance, the result of banging your thumb with a hammer is that your thumb aches,
Yeah.
right? That's what we mean by karma. You don't hit your thumb with a hammer and then 3 centuries later the karma machine digs you up just to give you a thumb ache. So, the Buddha also points out that some actions are indeterminate as to whether they're good or bad until you get the result. The result determines the action, in the sense of, you buy money or you put money on the stock market, the stock goes up, it was a good buy.
Mm.
If the stock goes down, it was not a good buy.
Mm.
How are we going to know? We don't know those things in advance. And this is what leads the Buddha to say that karma, that kind of karma, is unknowable in its outcome. That we don't know what our actions are actually going to do.
Mm-hmm.
And yet almost all of our society is based upon the fact they think they know the outcome of good actions give good results and bad actions give bad results. You come to work and you do a good job and we'll give you a paycheck. Good
Mm-hmm.
work, good paycheck, okay? The answer is, wait a minute, I did this much work and I got only about half of that. The reason you hired me is because you knew you could make money off of me. Where's my other part of my money?
Mm-hmm.
Right? This is what Marxism and socialism is really all about. Is where capitalism is means one person will get part of the value of each of his employees and puts that in his pocket. To where socialism is that everyone gets their own value for what they do.
Mm.
But when each person gets value for what they individually do, you don't wind up with multimillionaires. Multimillionaires
Yeah.
have, by the very nature of capitalism, have to steal money.
It come from greed.
It comes from greed, precisely. So when we begin to understand those things, that by working in that world out there, we're actually supporting that world, and that we're being abused by that world.
Mm.
That in fact, if we can come to the point of recognizing that our actions are actually mixed, that we don't get full value. And we've already seen that with the example of what is good action. Well, it depends upon the result.
Mm-hmm.
Now we can see that if at a football game, if you throw a penalty flag in the air, or the umpire does, or the referee, or whatever they call it, and half the crowd cheers because they like that call, and the other half boos because they don't like the call, was that call good or not? Now the question was it a correct call? That can be determined by videos that we have nowadays.
Yep.
But that's not the point. The point is the crowd liked it or didn't like it, and so that's a matter of viewpoint, opinion, and our feelings. But so in fact, karma is mixed. It has
Mm-hmm.
good results, sometimes bad results, sometimes it has sometimes it's mixed good and bad intentions, and it gives good and bad results. Clouds always have a silver lining. You know the whole story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. But there's a fourth kind of karma. And that kind of karma is not mixed, it's not bright, and it's not dark. What does it mean by being not dark is that we are not actually out there trying to get something or to harm somebody or to do some business deal or whatever, that our actions are more pure, that
Mm-hmm.
we're not out there doing harm or involved with that world. And then the other one is not bright, means that we're not trying to make merit, we're not trying to gain a profit, we're not trying to gain any value out of what we do. We do it simply because that's what needs to be done right now,
Yep.
in whatever level the word need means here. So it's immediate. This kind of karma that is neither bright nor dark always gives results that are neither bright nor dark. If we don't harm anybody, we don't have to suffer the consequences of harming someone.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's the kind of action that leads to the end of action.
Ah.
The kind of action that leads to the end of action is not no action. A lot of people in Buddhism, they think, oh, well, if non-doing's the trick, then all I have to do is to sit down and not do. But the Buddha recognizes it's a little more complicated than that. We actually have to take active measures to put a stop to that good and bad, and then it'll come to a stop after we put a stop to it. So we can see that this grand philosophical understanding of the nature of actions and karma and all of that actually happens every time we practice anapanasati. This is one's right effort, is to come out of the good and bad making kind of karma, the
Yep.
ordinary
Sure.
stuff, the mixed up stuff, the cheering and the booing, and just settle into, oh wow, this is nice, this
Mm.
is comfortable. And so we come into that state of non-doing.
So it's like coming out of the karma. No, it's like coming out of the intention to intentions
To
which,
get something,
yeah, yeah, exactly. Which, yeah, clinging kind of intentions.
or the intention to get rid of something.
Oh, yeah, that too, yeah.
So that everything comes sabai sabai, easy going, hunky dory. That's my new joke. Have you ever heard of that expression? Everything is hunky dory.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want Dory hunky or not.
Uh-huh.
A little less hunky. So when we come to that state of everything is just okay like it is, that's that really is a kind of a neutral state, which is always somewhere between wanting to get something or wanting to get rid of something.
Mm.
Want to bring this, want to push that away. The going and the coming. And
So
so
it's the
when
neutral state.
the neutral state is to come to the end of uh, the goings and comings of one's own mind, the
Mm.
hindrances.
Makes
But
sense.
that's the real karma that we're doing. The real karma that we're making is that spinning around of samsara. We keep doing it, we keep doing it, and the results are we keep doing it.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
It's a vicious circle.
Uh-huh. And the Bhikkhu Buddhadasa has a beautiful article in uh, uh, Lion's Roar magazine from several years ago uh, that is talking about, actually the name of it is Karma, the choice is yours.
That rings a bell. I don't think I've read it, but that title rings a bell.
Hmm. And this is what Anapanasati is really all about, is to wake up, recognize we got that choice, throw that stuff out of the mind, and come to a really happy state. We keep doing
Mm,
that over and over and over and over again until it becomes our new way of life.
mm,
And that happens when you're doing it and you're getting pretty good at it, and then you can say, "Oh, I got to go to work," and then you say, "Wait a minute, screeching halt! Stop the band! Wait a minute, we need to start examining the lifestyle now."
yeah.
And when we recognize, I can fix it up, I can get it down to having a very, very simple life, and by doing so, we can find support in many places. There's so many people and places in Thailand and throughout the West. Um, in fact, religion is known for and about its charity and generosity.
Mm,
Well, it's not Christian generosity; it's human
mm,
generosity that we, in fact, when we're on friendly terms, we share with each other. It's only when we see the other as a villain or the other as other, that's when we have to make a deal or to transact or to do business or to fight or to whatever that kind of stuff is.
mm. Yep.
And so when we find a way to understand, there are ways of checking out. There are numbers of ways of checking out. And so one of them is through the Theravada Wat. That go find one and go start hanging out there.
Yeah, I have been thinking about checking them out um once they open again.
Right
Um,
now, it's not the moment. I understand.
yeah, yeah. But I know they have some retreats there as well. So I was thinking of signing up for some of the smaller ones and seeing what they're like.
There's actually quite a number of guys in and around London area, and it would be good if you coordinate with each other for which watch you're going to go to, and maybe go in a small group and things like that. And I've got, oh gosh, there's Robert and Matt and you and Clint
I've met
and
Matt.
huh?
I've met Matt on a call with you once.
Right.
None of the others though.
Well, there are those who are gaining the noble Dhamma, and that the thing that a lot of Westerners would, within Western Buddhism, there's a lot of magical thinking. And then there is the pragmatic Dhamma, or the secular Dhamma, or the ones that are trying to pull the magic out of it.
Yep.
And they kind of somehow magically, even though they're taking the magic out, they somehow magically believe that the magic has always been there and that they're doing something brand new. They don't
Uh-huh.
understand that in Asia, they've been taking the magic out of Dhamma for centuries now.
Yep.
And
That's
that
the
Bhikkhu
deeper meaning behind
Buddhadasa
it.
is right, and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa is a big, big star in Thailand still because he did that in public. He took the magic out of the Dhamma, and
Mm.
so now the example is the one in Chithurst, and also the one I think it's Amaravati in Hemel
That's the one
Hempstead.
I've heard of. Yeah.
They are very, very familiar with Bhikkhu Buddhadasa. And
Hmm.
that, in fact, through Achan Cha, their teacher, Achan Cha was a student of Bhikkhu Buddhadasa.
Hmm.
That Achan Cha has done things like bring a whole group of his Western monks to Chaya so that they can hear Bhikkhu Buddhadasa give talks.
Mm-hmm.
I met Ajahn Sumedho at Wat Suan Mok. I met Ajahn Chah at Wat Suan Mok. So there's
Okay.
a deep, close connection between the Ajahn Chah tradition and Bhikkhu Buddhadasa's lineage. In fact, it's kind of the same one.
Okay.
Uh, and so um, that's a good place to go. They also have a smaller place in Chithurst, which I
Mm-hmm.
think is way down in the south someplace. But there's also a big Thai temple that I know of, at least one in London, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where all the Thai people go. And they are also, let us say, um, interconnected.
Okay.
And so there in London, there's kind of a not a hotbed of Bhikkhu Buddhadasa, but certainly it's there.
That's
It's
yeah,
not
that's
going to be a
quite good
whole
to
lot of
know.
magical temples. That Thailand is not necessarily as magical as people in the West would think that it is.
Mm-hmm.
So I would invite you to go and explore that. Um, we need to make that connection between the Westerners and the Asian tradition. There's a whole lot that can be taught that cannot be gained from a book or from someone sitting by themselves. That it takes a community. That's
Yeah.
the reason why the Buddha formed the Sangha was he wanted a retreat center, literally, a get away from it all kind of place. And there
Yeah.
are the woods, there's the forest. Here we go. We got a place to go now. That happened in the beginning, but very soon after the Buddha started having a lot of followers, lay people would start to build huts and kutis just
Mm-hmm.
all over the place. And then a monk would come and stay there for a while, and then he'd leave and it'd be vacant, and then some new monk would come and stay. And so that's that old tradition of little huts in the forest or retreat centers that sprung from the time of the Buddha.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, the whole idea of retreat means to abandon the battlefield.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true.
And so I would welcome you to do that. And all of this talk that we've had today came from that one insight of, oh, I don't want to go back to work. And I can see that
Yep.
because this has got a lot of ramifications. Once you get to that point of recognizing that uh, there is dukkha in that whole, not that we were trapped in it from childhood, but that we are still trapped in it right now,
Mm.
and that the whole society is trapped in it. Now it seems like that. Well, if so many people are trapped in it, you've got to have some trappers there someplace. But
Yeah.
no, the trappers themselves are trapped.
Yeah.
That the guy who's got the most money, he still wants more, and the guy who's got almost as much money is trying to get more than that so that he can be on top, and the guy on top says, "Oh no, you don't."
Exactly.
And so everybody's clamoring to get more and more and more, and nobody's happy. Nobody's happy. And our whole society has gone south that way.
Yeah.
And so this today is our lesson on Silabataparamasa in a big way, because it's instinctual. It's
Mm.
instinctual. In fact, you could think of it. I like to think of it more now as it's our herding instinct. That wildebeest will collect together when the lions are there.
Yeah.
Okay, so all one old wildebeest has to do is creep saying, "I see that lion, I see the lion," and he's got them all in a little group. Another example of that, and this is a good one. Okay, the dog, a sheepdog, is barking at the sheep, and he barks around and he barks around and he gets them all in a nice little herd, and then he can get that little herd over to the gate, and then he can get them to go through the gate.
Mm-hmm.
But one of those old rams turns around to his buddies and say, "You know something? Every one of us is bigger than that dog. All he's got is bark. Why don't we go surround him?"
Yeah.
And then about five of the old dudes start going back to that dog and said, "Hello, dog." And it'll only take just a few of them to occupy the dog, and then the rest of the sheep are completely free.
Mm.
But no, they don't. They're not smart enough to do that. The question is, are humans smart enough?
We are. We
Some
are
of us
smart enough. We just don't know it.
just don't know, right, that we do not have to be in that herd.
Yeah.
We do not have to go to work because we were told to work. And we've been told to work. Isn't that interesting? In the first grade, we were told to work, and the value and benefit is graduation to second grade. Well, what to do? Second grade. And then do that trick on you. Oh, you get out of junior high school, and you're in real high school now. And oh, you graduated from high school, university. That's your
It's all just jumping through hoops.
right, exactly. And so they put us to work from our childhood, and they think that we're going to continue to work for the rest of our lives. But generally, somewhere around the age of 40, the midlife crisis sets in,
Yeah.
and that's when they buy the Harley Davidson
Yeah.
or the Jaguar, because their whole life has been unsatisfying. So they go back to expensive childhood toys. But it's too late, and now they're old men,
Mm.
and they never got any real benefit out of all of that work that they put in. They were always promised. So in effect, in a way, this guy's been like a draft animal his whole life.
Mm.
He's been nothing but a jackass or donkey with a
It's
carrot and a stick.
it's modern slavery.
It is modern slavery, precisely. Except that it's even more vicious than slavery because it's, how to say it, it's animal abuse. Yeah, we're all animals, and we're out around abusing. I mean, this whole society abuses. It's built a nice pyramid or two, wonderful technology. Cell phones are marvelous, but everybody's still suffering. Everybody's still unhappy and miserable.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks they don't get enough. So the idea, can you get enough? Can you actually come to the point of saying, "Oh yeah, this is good"?
Yeah, it's good that people are starting to realize how things can be different. It's happening more these days.
Yes. Watch out, the ground is shaking. Some earth-shattering rearrangements are going to be
Mm.
happening. People are waking up. The internet's helping them.
Yeah.
Coronavirus is helping. Waking up to police brutality.
Yep.
The thing that people don't understand is the whole point of police is brutality.
Yeah.
And the people who the police want to join their police force are the ones who are already bullies.
Yeah, I
They
suppose
don't
that's
want nice
true.
people in the police department. They want tough soldiers.
Yeah.
They want somebody who out there beating ass.
Yeah.
And the people are beginning to realize, we don't need anybody out here beating our butt. We don't need them. We don't need the cops. Let the cops go home. We need social programs. We need some beds. We need
Mm.
some housing. We need some adequate food and adequate medical attention.
Yeah.
And a couple of Mickey Mouse t-shirts to throw in by the side. Just the basics, just the basic facts is all we need, and we don't need a police force. London used to be that way. The Bobbies used to not have guns at all. They went around unarmed.
Yeah, they still don't have guns here. They have tasers, most of the police. It's which
In
is
America,
great.
they've got the taser, they have the gun, and they've got the cell phone they call in the SWAT team
Yeah,
with tanks and weapons and all of that kind of stuff.
they've got it
And
all.
we don't need that kind of police. Humans don't need that kind of police.
Mm,
And so people are waking up to that. I think the internet is part of it. But this shut in and everybody getting really tense and uptight, frantic, as we were talking about from the corona situation. This is what, when people begin to suffer enough, they begin to really wake up to what's going on.
mm,
And we thought that we could build a nice, easygoing society, and humans are not doing a very good job of that right now. And
yep.
people are getting a little bit, wait a minute, let's make some changes here.
Yeah.
They're also beginning to, I think a lot of them are recognizing that the changes that need to be done are not out there in the world. That the way to
Yeah.
deal with police is by having them not around at all, avoid them completely. Being the motorcycle maniac that I was from such a young age, we had different set of rules than most people. One of the rules we had was every cop, you got to see him first before he sees you.
Oh, wow.
You see the
Haha.
cop before he sees you, and you're okay. If he sees you before you see him, you're in trouble.
Yeah, that's yeah, I like that.
But that was when we were out there doing stuff. Actually, sometimes we do it intentionally for the police just so we can get them to chase us.
Haha.
But those days are over. Nowadays they have radios.
Yeah, they've got everything now.
But back then it was a little bit different. So anyway, um, everyone has kind of a bit of a rebellious spirit, but that spirit has been literally suppressed in the turning us into the animals that society has turned us into. And that the real rebellion is to not to try to transform or change society at all. The
Mm,
real rebellion is to look at what's going on so that you can manage it wisely,
yeah.
so that we don't have to get stuck into their trap. We can see their trap and avoid it. That's really a lot of what the Dhamma is all about. And so the Buddha here, he gives a way of getting out of it altogether. And that whole tradition is still very much alive and well, and
Mm-hmm.
can grow significantly when we have the people who want to leave the society. There will be places, always places open and available if people are able to do the research.
Mm.
That's
Yeah,
part
it's
of the
good to
reason
know
why
that.
we're putting this database together, is so that people can come and find places.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to have that available.
Well, I would appreciate it if you do that looking up kind of stuff and to find everything that's available. Um,
Yeah, I can do that.
you could even go so far as to start calling them around and asking them these kind of questions,
Mm-hmm.
making friends with them,
Yeah. Yeah, sounds like a good idea.
so that you'll be the go-to guy in England.
Haha.
Well, this has been a really interesting conversation,
Yep. It's been
and I
great.
appreciate. Yeah. So um, next time when you see that feeling of, oh, I gotta go to work, you say, ah, yeah, but I can whistle.
Yeah.
So you don't lose that cool. All right. Well, we'll see you later.
See ya.